Well, good evening. My name is Mitch Lucas. We are here on another episode of Pro Wrestling Inside and Out's look at Continental Championship Wrestling. That was a promotion that existed back in the 80s. Before that is Southeastern Championship Wrestling. We come to you each week on Thursdays here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in a couple people. If you're a Continental fan, you're going to remember both guys. One of them is a regular on this show. His name is Brent West. He is the son of legendary promoter, general manager, referee Ron West. And we have not just a special guest today, but a very special guest, someone not just can be identified with Continental Wrestling, even though that's what I love to remember him with. He's a state of wrestling from many years in many areas, and his name is none other than Dr. Tom Prichard.
Gentlemen, good to be with you.
Glad to have y'all. Glad to see you today. Hey.
Great to be here, guys.
Well, Tom, thank you so much. I met Tom in 1982. I was 3 years old. No, I was 11 years old when I met him in Georgia Championship Wrestling. So.
That's just been a long time. I don't even know if 1982 exists anymore in anybody's mind or world or whatever you want to call it, man. That's a long time ago. That's close to 40 years, but not quite. Well, not quite, but it's close to 40 years, I think.
All right, we got to say hello to a couple of people that has already came on. Hello, Charles Alford. Hello, and thank you so much for coming on Pro Wrestling Inside Out. Also, Jordan Culbertson, the pride of Polk County, just right down the road from Bradley County. Hello, and thank you for coming on. Tom, let's go ahead and start this out. When was your first wrestling match? When was your first professional wrestling match?
My very first professional wrestling match was in Bryan, Texas, against El Satanico number 2. I think number 1 was babysitting that night, but. Yeah, it was in Bryan, Texas. It was a big card for a guy named Ernie Holmes. Used to play ball, I think, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he wanted to wrestle. And Nick Kozak and a guy named Joe Mercer helped train him. And I was going over to their record service after I trained with the Iron Sheik a couple times in the Sam Houston Coliseum, thanks to Paul Bosch. But this was in Bryan, Texas. I was on the opening match. El Satanico number 2 was a record driver who drove for Nick and Joe, and just a guy who these days I would call a play wrestler, but he was going to show this young kid. I was 20 years old. He was going to show me that, this is tough business, kid. You own it. I'll show you how it's done. That kind of stuff. So, but that was cool, man, because it got my feet in the door, got my feet wet. And, from there, I never stopped. I got booked, I think, the very next week, thanks to Boyd Pierce, and doing TVs in Louisiana for Bill Watts. And I did a couple shots also for Leroy McGurk in between October 20th, 1979, until I left at the end of January to go to California. So it all started.
Yeah, and I don't know if we've lost Brent or not, but I do have some of his questions that he sent me, Tom, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up where he left off. He has got that you wrestled in November, and you remember this, against Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy in Alexandria, Louisiana, late in 79, and went under the name of Tom Price. Do you recall doing that?
I certainly do. And let me just say this real quick. Was it November? So it was October 20th. So it was November in Alexandria. It had to be, but I worked TVs against Michael and Terry. I had my second match ever at Shreveport, Louisiana TV station against Lord Jonathan Boyd. There's Brent against Lord Jonathan Boyd. And my third match was against Michael and Terry. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ernie Ladd was my partner for whatever reason. They were doing the angle with Michael Terry. It might have been me and somebody else. I know I teamed with Ernie during those tapings, and I believe we did 4 tapings that day. And that after we did the tapings, Buck Robley came in and asked me if I wanted to work that night, which I said, of course. So yeah, but I did work with Michael and Terry early on, and I remember getting there. We drove. Let me, if I can, if you would indulge me. Do we have a time limit here?
Sure. No.
Okay, great.
You go as long as you want.
Okay. Well, when Boyd Pierce was a ring announcer in Houston, and he would ring announce in Louisiana too, but he would also do commentary on TV. So the Friday night that I was supposed to go to Louisiana, we finished the matches in Houston. I was still working as Paul's assistant at ringside, and Boyd, I followed Boyd from Houston. The show we stopped at 8, and about 11:30 we were on our way to drive all night to Shreveport. Now this is a memory that stayed with me 40 years. We're driving along I-10 headed to Shreveport, and we're in the left lane, the fast lane, by the way. And of course, you know about that, Mitch. You live in Texas now. Hook 'em horns. Damn right. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, we're driving along. Boyd's in front of me. I'm behind Boyd, and I see a car just hauling ass right behind me. And those lights are coming faster and faster. So I get over in the right lane, and Boyd doesn't. And this guy gets right on Boyd's butt, and then he moves over to the shoulder of the road. Now the radio's on. It's KLOL in Houston, Texas. It's Houston's rock station. And they're in the middle of commercials. And this guy gets on Boyd's ass, and then he moves to the shoulder of the road, keeps going, hits an overpass guardrail, goes on his side like this, comes to a bridge, and goes over the bridge. As this is happening, this is the truth. As it happens, timing couldn't be better. AC/DC's Highway to Hell comes on, the old da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da, and I'm going, oh my God, I'll never forget this, and I never have. You know, and we got to Shreveport. It was in a TV studio. We drove all night. We stopped at a rest area a couple miles down the road, too, and Boyd says, see, that's what happens when you get in a hurry, son. Take your time. And I thought, whoa, wait. So, yeah, that was that was the start of an interesting life and an interesting career, to say the least. But never forget.
What are your memories of working with Hayes and Gordy and Ernie Ladd?
I got to tell you, from day one, because I took the finisher where Michael would backdrop the guy into Terry and give you the pile driver or the power bomb. They gave me a pile driver that day. They were easy. They were great. Michael was cool. Terry was cool. They were good guys. And I didn't realize they were the same age because Michael talked like he'd been in the business forever. Of course, he'd been in the business probably 3 or 4 years at that time. They started early. Terry started when he was like 13, 12. Mm-hmm. Terry was big. And I didn't realize this. But when we got to the studio and everybody's getting ready, and I'm nervous as hell, but they're cutting promos by the ring, and Michael's just talking like this vet, seasoned pro. I'd never heard of him, obviously, but he was rabba-dazzle, rock and roll, I said, David, I shine my rock, and just going on and on and on. He was a genius, I thought. Well, he's just Michael. But they were great. They were a lot of fun later on, and Michael never forgot that. And one thing Michael never forgets to this day, usually when I talk to him, he always brings up the white rafting adventure that we took in West Virginia when we were on tour in Georgia. It was Terry, Michael, Nick Patrick, Brad Armstrong, Tommy Rich, myself. So there were 6 of us. Might have been a couple more, but there was I know at least those 6. And Michael always brings that up because it was a great time. It was a great, you have times like that in the business, things that you never forget. So from that one day, that first day in Louisiana, he never forgot that either. And so, yeah, they were very good. And Ernie Ladd, again, another guy I was just intimidated by because I've been a wrestling fan my whole life and always told you'll never make it. And when I made it, that was my goal. I never thought I'd be the world champion. I never thought I was going to be a big guy. But just getting in the business, to me, it was making it. And so from there, it just continued on, even to this day.
Hey, Tim Horner is telling us hello.
Yes.
Hey, Tim.
Tim, what's up?
Hey, we're going to get Tim. We're going to get Tim on here.
There you go. Yeah, he's got some stories, that's for sure.
Yeah, he said he had a story about Dad. I don't know. Maybe that can't be aired on here. I don't.
Yeah. Well, more stories can be aired that can't about Ronnie, I guarantee you.
This is true. I guess where we at? You got to work against Les Thornton in the Sam Houston Coliseum one time, and I've got a photograph here.
Oh my
I think it was from that time. I'm not for sure. Would that have been during that?
That is my very first match in Houston, and the referee is Danny McShane, former world junior heavyweight champion, who was refereeing. Very, very famous classic wrestler. But that was my very first match in my hometown of Houston, Texas. I was nervous. I was more nervous than what a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. But Les had that English accent, and he's calling spots. And I remember him shooting me, and we had to go 15 minutes Broadway. Here's Les Thornton getting ready to get the junior heavyweight championship. I knew this later on. He had been politicking Gary Hart for this, and Gary was in the midst, and that was the angle going on. Les was really wanting to get that belt. And they put him in the ring against a kid debuting in his hometown. And Les calls off as he shoots me up. He says, I think I had him in an arm bar. He says, "Can you call him?" What? "Can you call him?" Okay. And he shoots me off, and I run right into him. He goes, "God damn it!" And he grabs me and pulls me over. I'm freaked out. I don't know what the hell he said. So Paul Bosch at the last 2 minutes comes down to ringside. And again, I had been Paul's assistant for 5 years, sitting ringside with Paul, doing the times people have seen me, people have known, and now I'm making my debut. And it's just all the local fans knew. And I'm blown up. I'm nervous. I'm freaked out. And Paul comes down the ringside and starts cheering me on, and I'm thinking something's wrong. Didn't tell him he's going to come down. He just, I'm going, oh my God, what did I do? Now I'm thinking, oh God, no, I don't know what to do. But we do our in back in those days, the Broadways would go where you build until the end, where it's 1, 2, kick out. The other guy get 1, 2. So you got to be going for about a minute, 45 seconds, whatever, or 30 seconds, whatever it was. It seemed like 5 days to me. Anyway, we get back to the dressing room, and I had worked with Les a couple times in Dallas and Fort Worth prior to getting to Houston. This was at the end of, I don't remember the date. If you have the date there, Brent.
Yeah, it was January 11th, 1980.
Right. So it was right before I left to go to California, because I left at the end of January, I think, or right after that. And I had worked with Les a couple times in Dallas and Fort Worth, and he was still a little cranky then too. But he came back out, and I couldn't hear very well then, and I obviously can't hear very well now. Pardon me. But he says, "I asked you if you could cartwheel." Well, cartwheel, it didn't sound like that out there. You know what I mean? My head's going a million miles an hour. I couldn't think. And so there were a couple times he snatched me. But again, that's just a learning process. That's why I tell rookies today, and I tell people that I train, the hardest thing to do in there is relax. The hardest thing to do is just take your time. And the only way you get over that is by doing it and just getting over it. There's no trick to it. You just have to experience it. So, but Les Thornton was great, and I saw him later on a few years, and he was in Georgia when I was there too. So, but he was a nice man eventually. He just one of those old timers that didn't take too kindly to a young punk coming in there, especially a punk like me. I wasn't a real big guy. And Les had been earning his spot and paying his dues, and he's getting ready to be the World Junior Heavyweight Championship for the NWA, which really meant something back then, or it meant what it meant back then. The NWA had the NWA heavyweight title, of course, and the Junior Championship was in there somewhere. But if you held it, at least you're a world champion, right, for the NWA, and that's how he felt. And I was, and he had to go 15 minutes with me. Oh God!
Well, now in Georgia, was you there when David Sammartino got beat up pretty bad by Les Thornton?
No. I'd come after David had already left, but I met David in Houston one time when he was working for Watts. But no, I wasn't. Did David get beat up too?
Oh yeah, but he got his nose broke by so he got mad at him on TV, and I mean he hooked him, and I mean he just kept on hitting him in the nose. I don't know what he did, but man.
Well, I can see it. I can see it. I only met David one night, but I mean I can see it because you're Bruno's kid, and you don't know who Les Thornton is. You've been in the Northeast, and your dad's a champ, and it kind of entitles you. And I don't know if he's that's the way he felt, but I can see that could be the misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I'll
never forget that though. It was done on TV, so it's out there on TV somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
You mentioned, Tom, that you had gone to California not long after that, and I guess that was for Mike LaBelle. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, Mike LaBelle.
How did that work out? How did you get that position?
Well, here's another thing, funny about the wrestling business. Nobody always tells you the truth. God, can you believe that? But Paul Bosch had got me booked for Don Owen in Portland, and I was supposed to go there after January. And my last night there, I remember it was a Battle Royal too, I think. And Gary comes up to me and says, "You're going to, you need to go to California on this date." I said, "Gary, I'm supposed to start in Portland on this date." He goes, "Oh, no, we got that taken care of. Don't worry. You're going to go here first, and then you go to Portland." I said, "Oh, okay." Just figuring they're going to call and take care of it. I don't have to do anything, right? Because they're the guys that set this up. So why wouldn't they set up everything else? So I was looking forward to going to California because of the Olympic Auditorium and the history and the mystique. In the wrestling magazines, they called it the Madison Square Garden of the West Coast. And I'd seen the pictures in the magazines and heard about the guys. And hell yeah, it's Los Angeles, it's Hollywood, it's California, right? So I'm 20 years old. Why not? And I get to California, and Chavo Guerrero was the booker. So my first match was in Fresno, California. I actually flew to Fresno, and I remember Mark Lewin making the reservation on PSA Airlines for me to fly to California. PSA. They're not around anymore. Wonder why. But I fly to Fresno, and I'm at the airport. I know the name of the building, but I guess I have to catch a cab there. I don't know. I've got maybe $200 in my pocket, and I see Andre on the phone, and there's a picture of me on Andre's shoulders that Alice Marie Nelson took in Houston during this Battle Royal. And so Paul had introduced me to Andre and said, "This is what I want you to do. Back up in the corner, Tom's going to come on the outside, climb on your shoulders. You're going to grab your hair and you go, 'Oh, this is my friend.' And then you're going to get over by the top rope. And then that's how Tom's going to be eliminated." And I was supposed to work with Patera, but I worked with, and it got all messed up. But they got the picture of me on Andre's shoulders, which is so cool because some people don't know it was a Battle Royal. They say, "Well, how was Andre to work with?" So he's great. I beat him, which they know is not true anyway. But anyway, we get to Fresno and I have the match. I meet Piper the first night there too. It was a wild night, but Fresno, the Wilson Theater. I rode back to Los Angeles with Jules Strongbow, not the original one, but Frankie Hill, and the Twin Devils, and we stayed at the Milner Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. So I'm thinking I'm only going to be here a couple weeks. But a couple weeks go by and nobody said anything to me. And I went to Chavo. I said, "Chavo, I thought I was supposed to go to Portland." And he said, No, you're staying here, man. You're staying here. Well, I thought, okay, they worked it out. In fact, I think Chavo told me, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it. I'll call. Don't worry about it." Well, he never called. Nobody ever called. But I'm having a good time. I think we're wrestling 3 or 4 nights a week. It wasn't a full schedule. The money was terrible. Houses were down. It was not great business, but it was a lot of fun. And it was the Olympic Auditorium. Meeting Mike LaBelle, Gene LaBelle, Red Shoes Dugan, some of the John Tolis, Pampero Firpo, Freddie Blassie, the guys that came in. So I'm meeting these legends, and I'm as someone who loves the business and appreciates and respects the guys who came before me. This is great this is incredible. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, this is really something else to watch and learn from. But later on, and I will say this, I stayed there about a year and a couple months, but I got a Japan tour out of it. Fujinami came in. I worked with Fujinami. They brought the Japanese cameras, filmed it. I got a 6-week tour of Japan in my first year. So my second year, going to second year. So, I mean, that was all kind of cool. That was a great experience for the most part. Again, I met some very cool people that I still know today. A guy named Lloyd Lee. There's a place in Hollywood called the Ivar Theater. And one night, a friend of mine, Tom Abdu, they had all these characters there. And Tom Abdu would work around the Olympic. And everybody knows somebody somewhere around there, and they all have these ins and outs and all this hokey pokey stuff. And Tom says, hey, man, you want to go to the Ivar? What's the Ivar? You'll love it. Trust me. And he comes by and picks me up. And we go to Hollywood, and it's this Ivar Theater. And we walk up to this little ticket booth, with the windows outside, and looks like a movie ticket booth. Guy with green hair sells us tickets. Tom pays for everything. Tom, I got this. And we walk in, and there's a long runway. And as we walk in, there's this beautiful girl walking down the runway completely naked. And I said, I love this place. So I don't believe they served alcohol, but we take our seats and we watch these girls, and I'm thinking, it's kind of like, I never really dug strip clubs. I mean, I went, sure, but I mean, it's kind of like going somewhere you can watch, but you can't touch, you can't do anything. So what are you going to do? I don't get it. And it never, the appeal. Anyway, we watched this girl. She comes down in a, I want to say a blonde. She's got blonde hair, and she's walking down, and she looks down at us, and then you could see the like she's startled. She looks at Tom and me, and she goes like, "Oh my God," and keeps walking, and then automatically just walks back and doesn't look back at us. But you could tell, and I thought she just looked, and I went, yeah, because nobody knew who the hell we were. No, I mean, but they did. That's the thing. Even though they weren't drawing in L.A., people would watch the TV. So Tom says, hey, wait a minute. I'll be right back. So he leaves and leaves me there, and I'm cool because I'm just sitting there watching, and it was fine. But again, you can't touch. You can see, you can watch, but you can't touch. So I'm going, okay. So this guy, Tom, comes back and says, hey, that girl, remember her that you just saw? Yeah, I remember. You mean that one? The one, there's only 50 of them here. She goes, yeah. Her and her old man was the one who sold us the tickets. They sit on the front row of San Bernardino every Sunday and give the baby faces hell. And they want to know if we want to go back to their apartment and hang out. Well, sure. So that was Lloyd and Lisa Lee. Lloyd took me back. They had a great apartment in Hollywood. And that's the first time I saw the Wrestling Observer. So this was in either 1980 or 81. Maybe. Had to be 80. And so whenever Dave started his newsletter, Lloyd says, hey, man, have you ever seen this? And I'm looking. I said, no. It has all the LA stuff. And so that was cool. Plus, I really wasn't going to the gym like I should, but I was going to the beach. And my partner was Al Madrill, who was 30 years old and was just a miserable son of a gun. He was horrible to be around. Just the worst veteran to encourage anybody. So, but I still got along, and I had a fun time. It was exactly where I should have been at that time. Although I really should have been in Portland, working, 5 and 6 nights a week and learning from guys like Dynamite Kid and those guys.
Well, let me catch up before we go on and catch up with some people who come on here, and we want to say hello to Jay Smith. Says, hey Dr. Jay. Tom. Wendy Harkins, you may remember Wendy. She came to the matches every week at the Birmingham Boutwell Auditorium.
Very cool.
Good evening, guys. Hope all is well. David Williamson, I think you know David.
I do know David, yes.
Great. I think he's meant great to see you all tonight. I think you left the C out of that. But Donna Hall, I think you probably remember Donna Hall from Continental Championship.
Now, Brent, you were incriminating me a lot here tonight. You're thinking just because, during that time in Continental Wrestling, we may or may not have done this or done that. So,
good.
But I will say, go ahead. Well, before we go any further, I did meet my wife now in Continental Wrestling.
Okay. Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. Donna Hall, glad to see you. I think we already talked to Charles Alford.
Yes.
We already, and I don't know how to say this, guys, or whoever this person is. I'm not for sure what that is.
Hello, Ann.
All right. Well,
hello.
I don't know what that says, but
says hello.
Pile driver looks deadly, but easy as feathers. I guess Charles Alford. I think he was a professional wrestler. I think he was. I think he said he was trained by Danny Davis. I believe that's what he said.
It could be.
Yeah.
Well, some pile drivers are easy as a feather, and other guys I don't know that I would trust. But Terry's was certainly easy as a feather.
Jay Smith, The Rock says you have the best wrestling school in the country. That is a pretty good compliment, and I would say it is the best school in the country. If you want to learn professional wrestling, and we are going to talk about that at the end of the program, we're also going to give you some information where you can find Tom as well. Let's see. Let's make sure we got everybody here. Rusty Jones, thank you so much for watching. Good evening. And I think now we've called up. Wait a minute. Bubba Griffin, hello from Pensacola, Florida.
One of the greatest places to live, Gulf Breeze, man. It was that was one of the most fun times of my life, no doubt.
David Bean, hello.
Hey, David.
All right, now we'll pick back up, Mitch. We got to get that out of the way. We got to let the people know that we know they're out there.
Yes.
All right, Mitch.
All right. Well, here I'm looking down the list, and this is like a who's who of people. But among the people that we got you working with in California while you were there were Chick Donovan, Ox Baker, and John Tolos. Is that correct? And do you remember working with those guys out there?
How can you not remember working with Chick Donovan? I mean, that's where I met Chick. Yeah. Chick, and I'll say this because Tom Ernesto took over for Chavo, I think maybe 6 months or it was maybe a year after I'd been there because I was getting ready to go to Japan, and Chavo left shortly after that. So I think Chick came in with Tom Ernesto as a booker, and he hasn't changed. He has not changed one bit. He's still Chick, and he still loves the business, and that passion is something it's great to see that he can keep that passion for that long. He's still the Golden Boy, and he still wears the same gimmicks. That's the characters that made up professional wrestling that's missing today, in my opinion. It's just a huge void in guys like Chick, John Tolos, Ox Baker, who would sing opera in the shower, paint his toenails red. It was a greatest cast of characters ever. And the Olympic Auditorium was probably one of the greatest wrestling buildings ever, along with the Sportatorium in Dallas. So yeah, I remember working with all those guys. It was great.
Now, did they bring you in as somebody that was the coal miner's glove champion of the world? Because you had a lot of those while you were there.
Well, Mike LaBelle wanted to call me Cowboy Tom Prichard, and I didn't want to rock the boat. I'm, again, 20 years old, Los Angeles. This guy knows what he's doing, right? No, he didn't. But Cowboy Tom Prichard, and all of a sudden one day I show up, and I'm in a coal miner's glove match, and the story in the program is I am undefeated in coal miners glove matches around the world, or maybe around the country, whatever it was. And this is the only territory I've been to, and they start me out as the coal miners coal miners pole match champion. And
I was wondering because you had a lot there. When I was looking through the matches, you had a lot of coal miners glove matches, so I figured they had to be doing something, some angle like that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this too real quick. And I think the only reason they gave me that is because I was the smallest guy. I could probably climb up the gimmick, and I would say no to, I wouldn't say no to anything. But while Tom Ernesto was there, he also brought Tom Jr. and Tim with him, Tim Talltree, his two sons. And, speaking about these empty arena matches today, I get to the Olympic one Wednesday afternoon. We used to do TV on Wednesdays in the house show, in the Olympic Auditorium. Then the house show would be on a Friday at the Olympic Auditorium. So we had to get there early for TV to do promos, and then we would do a couple, 3 or 4 tapings at night. And I get to the Olympic that afternoon, I guess 1 o'clock, whatever it was, and Tom calls us into his little booker's room, Tom Jr. and myself and Tom Sr. And he asked me, says, here's what we want to do. There was a deal where you couldn't just talk about wrestling or something. You had to have, and this could be bold too. They could have just told us this, but the deal was you had to have a match in the ring, and then you can have the guys on the outside lumberjack style, and it was going to be Tom Jr. and me, and we would go 15, and they had this clock on the wall, and it would count down. And during TVs, Mike would put the time that you're supposed to do on the clock, and you just look at the clock and see when you would go home. So the idea was to have Tom and Tom was working as the assassin, in the ring in front of an empty arena in the Olympic Auditorium, and the guys would be around ringside to keep us in the ring so it wouldn't spill outside. None of the action would spill outside. And Jeff Walton would walk around and say, so Chief Runninghill, what do you think about this big feud between Cowboy Tom and the Assassin? Boy, I hope Tom gets him. Yeah, and you have a big match coming up against Fern of Navis Saberheaps. And they talk about that. So for 15 minutes, they're getting a commercial. Then Tom Sr. says to us, was going over the match, he says, son, to me, do you mind getting a black eye? Why, no, sir. I don't. With 30 seconds to go, I want Junior to get you down, and I want him to just top you one little deal, and I'm going to get a black eye. We're going to make an angle out of it. Well, hell yeah, sure, why not? So we're going. 30 seconds on the clock. We're in the ring. Junior goes, you ready? I said, yeah. Boom, splits me wide open. 7 stitches on my right eye.
Whoa.
Now, I react accordingly, I fire up, whatever. But this is before any TV tapings, and this match is supposed to be happening live on Sunday afternoon, and we're going to show you this match. They came all the way to the Olympic Auditorium on their day off to settle their feud, and all the guys are making sure they're going to stay in the ring, and it's supposed to happen live. So this is before the TV tapings. It's happening throughout. So I have 3 matches, I think, that night, and we go back to the dressing room, I clean up, and Al Madrill says, oh, you really need to go to the hospital. You really need to go get that sewed up. And I said, no. I'm going to do it out. I'm going to gut it out because this is what wrestlers do. And so we just put a little tape on it, and he says, and Senior asked me, can you work your left side? Can you work the left side of the camera so nobody sees your eye? So I'm thinking, what? Really? But I did. And I'm working with Rick Davidson. Do you remember Rick and John Davidson?
No, I don't think I ever saw them.
Okay, well, there were 2 big guys from Texas, and they'd come with Tom down there, and they weren't very safe, and they were a little bit stiff. And one of the things I thought it was the beginning of the match, but I watched it last year when somebody brought it up to me. It was during the end of the match. Rick takes his knee, puts my head on his knee, and just jams it down, and here comes the blood. So, yeah, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. But I've done the empty arena matches 40 years ago. Just one, but I got one under my belt. Well,
that's been done with 30 people too. So,
it's the same thing. Yeah. We were doing empty arena matches on a regular basis around the territory. So,
so it would have been fine. It'd been fine. We would have done fine with that. Right. Now, when you won the belts with Al Madrid, who did you beat to get the belts?
Al Madrid. It was Al Madrill.
Al Madrid. Okay,
that's okay. Al Madrill. Wow, that's a good question because I don't honest to God recall. I don't know. It might have been the Evans, Jack and Ray Evans. I don't know.
You know, I never could see it on the stuff that I got. I did see where you lost it because you lost the belt to the Assassin and John Tolis. You defeated, and it was a loser leave town match. I guess you were leaving town.
I might have been.
I think that's when you.
But I think I got it. I won it again with
Chris Adams.
Chris Adams and Apollo. Or I had another guy. There was another guy. I think. I don't remember. Honest to goodness, I don't remember.
All right, so let's move on because you did team with Chris Adams. Was that? I mean, that's he just came over here at that time, wasn't that? Was his first year, correct?
Yeah. No, Chris, I got along with fine. Chris is Chris. I mean, but we had a great time.
All right. Do you need to leave, Mitch?
No, I'm good. I'm okay. I wanted to ask this, and I'm sort of a transplanted Alabamian, Tom. I have been in Texas, though, in Kilgore, Texas, for about 20 years. Sports writer here at the Kilgore paper. And my daughter recently graduated from UT, from Texas in Austin. And I never have had the chance to go to San Antonio. Is that where you went in '81? You went to Joe Blanchard's territory? Was that San Antonio?
That was San Antonio. I think that's because Paul Bosch was working with. He was split from Dallas, and he was working with Joe then. So yeah, that was when I came back there, and so I hooked up with Manny Fernandez, Chavo Guerrero again, and Tiger Conway Jr. And I was their rookie, as they called me. And I did all the rookie things that rookies do back then. And it's kind of like following the veterans. And, hey, kid, try this. Hey, kid, do this. Hey, kid, let's see if we can jump off that tree. Hey, he did it. He went for it, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Was Robley the booker there?
He was, actually. Yeah, Buck was the booker. Yeah, and I you can say what you want about Buck Robley, and I've heard it all. But Buck always treated me well, and always was good with me. So anyway, I know he wasn't good with everybody, and a lot of people didn't care for him. But for me, he was great.
We're going to ask a question right before we go on. Somebody wanted to ask the question. Says, "How was it trained to be the Iron Sheik?" And by the way, I have a photograph of that. While we're talking about that, since somebody brought it up, we'll show this picture of Dr. Tom Prichard, which was not the Iron Sheik at the time. He was called something else at the time.
Muhammad Farouk. This was in Dallas. This was when I was working for Paul, and in Houston. But he let me go to Dallas, and I don't remember the circumstances on this. But I'm 16, 17 years old there. What happened with the Iron Sheik? I was working in the office for Paul in the summertime, and right out of school. And again, the way that even came about was just incredible. It was incredible. It's just the amount of breaks and opportunities I got were so fortunate, and I was just incredibly fortunate to be able to do that. But yeah, I was 16 or 17 in that shot, but I was in the office. Paul let me go. When I was working in the office, there was a football player who wanted to be a wrestler. And Paul knew I wanted to wrestle. And I always brought a gym bag with me in the back of my car when I'd come to the office, because a good wrestler always does it, always brings his gear. And just in case an opportunity came up, I was going to do anything it took, whatever it took. Anyway, this football player wanted to do it. Gary Hart brought the Iron Sheik, Muhammad Farouk, with him, because Gary would come every Friday morning, discuss the finishes with Paul for that night, and then go have lunch, and then go to the show. Well, so this football player shows up at the office, and Paul says, "You can take him over to the Coliseum, and if you want to get in there with him, go ahead." Oh my God, yes. So we go down the Coliseum. And even though I've been Paul's assistant, I really stayed out of the dressing room. I stayed out of the way. Didn't want to be pushy, want to do the protocol. Well, now I'm getting to go in the dressing room. Now we're going to change. We're going to go into the ring. It's already set up. And I think, here's the Sheik going to put on his pointy-toed boots and his camel trunks. No, he puts on his amateur singlet and his amateur shoes. And we go out to the damn ring, and he stretches me and the football player. And this happens one week and happens the next week. And after the second time, football player says to hell with it. He doesn't want this. He thinks it's easy. He thinks going out there acting and playing and doing all that stuff. And that's not what we're doing. That's not what Sheiky Baby's doing. Sheiky Baby's teaching us. And Sheiky Baby's, he told us how to lock up. He's trying to show me how to lock up. And I try to lock up working-wise because I know, right? No. I did not say this. You lock up hard. So I locked up hard. I slapped him in the ear.
Ooh.
Bad move. And he slapped me. He goes, I did not say to go wham. And he just slapped the crap out of me, rang my bell. But he came back 2 times or 3 times after that, and we trained a couple times. Then he left the territory. But he wasn't the same guy then that he was when he was the Iron Sheik. He was disciplined, and he wanted you to respect the business, and I think that's why they did it. But most guys didn't. Again, like Les Thornton, they were the old timers, and back then the old timers wanted you to respect the business. And if you gave off this vibe that you knew, he was going to let you know you didn't know, because you had to earn your way, and that was just the way it was. I mean, it was a different time, a different place, a different era. These days, it doesn't happen like that, and that's both good and bad because you're not abused, but at the same time, you don't get the dirt under your nails like you did back then. You don't really feel the way the road felt back then. I mean, you might hit potholes today, but I guarantee you, man, there were a lot less roads paved than there are today, because you can find a wrestling school on pretty much every corner. You can find a place that somebody's going to treat you differently than they did back then, because back then those guys wanted to know if you really wanted to do it. And if you really want to do it, kid, here, taste this and rub your face in the mat, and taste this and do it every night until you earn their respect. And today, a lot of guys just go in with the feeling that, hey, I don't have to respect anything. I'm a star. And you back then it was different. So,
well, we watched Gene Anderson one time. He was training somebody. I can't remember who it was. It was at the old sports arena in Atlanta, and he had this guy down, and he had him in an arm bar, and I mean, that guy was yelling out, and so he let him go. He said, "Do you remember that yelling and screaming that you just did?" He said, "I want you to remember that when it's a working arm bar, and we put you in it. That remember that pain you had, or you will feel that pain the next time we get in the class." And that was.
Yeah, there's a tape on YouTube with Bob Roop stretching the guy in the Tampa Sportatorium with Eddie Graham at ringside, and that's hard to watch. That's disturbing to watch, but it's the way they did it back then, because it was that kind of business. It was that kind of environment. They wanted to know, because if you went out, I mean, let's be honest, the business has been exposed since the early 1930s or even before that, man. So even Gotch and Hackenschmidt were working, but it was a different era, and it was a lot tighter. So they still had to come across as authentic, or at least like a not competition, but at least a match, a competitive match. And while people felt, yeah, they know it's a work, and if you punch somebody 5 times in the face and there's not a mark on them, well, something's up. But, in Texas and places like Tennessee, you would have guys who would do hard ways. You would have guys who would sell a punch. You would have guys who would actually go in the ring and say, all right, I'm going to lay it in. I might break your nose tonight. Do it. When Mayweather and Show had their match, and you saw Mayweather, Show got down on his knees. Mayweather threw those live rounds and broke his nose for the match to make sure everybody knew. But it's business, and boxing is just as much showbiz as wrestling is. It's a business. But they have a tighter crew, and they don't have to let everybody in on it. They let who they want in on it. And so that's the deal. But for some reason, people seem to think, because Mayweather broke his nose, oh my God, what's going to happen? Well, yeah, that's what you want to think. And it's it's a different time and a different train of thought and a different way of doing things. So
now in February of 1982, you show up at Georgia Championship Wrestling. My father is there. He had been there since 1974, working for Jim Barnett. He was actually the right-hand man of Jim Barnett at the time, and was until he got fired, and we'll talk about that later on. But you know, but you come
we
in
all
there.
get fired, Brent. We all get fired.
You know,
yeah.
Well, there was a line. I'm going to have to ask you about that. I believe there was a line at the door when Ole Anderson fired people on that March of 1983. You may have been at the door. I'm not for sure, but there was a few people at the door, and we'll talk about that. But you came in there. Was Ole booking it, or was Bob Armstrong booking it?
Ole was booking. Yeah, Ole was booking. That's when I came in, and I met Brad Armstrong for the first time. Tommy Rogers was there. Oh man, Tommy Rich, Nick Patrick. I'm trying to think of who else. Johnny Rich.
French Angel was there.
Oh, Frank was there. Yes, Frank Morrell was there. Goodness gracious. I used to remember
Rick Harris was there at the time.
Rick Harris almost wanted to kill me one night because I kept thinking he was saying lay it in, but there again, my hearing, he was saying loosen up, you little prick. And I thought he kept saying lay it in, and I am. And he came back, and Kevin Sullivan was standing right there. He said, "You ever do that to me again? I'll cream you, little bastard." I went, "Oh my God." So I came and said, "Rick, I'm so sorry, man. I swear to God, I couldn't hear you out there, man." So anyway, but we got over it. You know, that was Rick. He had a heart of gold. But there were a lot of Buzz Sawyer was there too. And again, Buzz was Buzz. But I got along with Buzz, man. I think I worked with Buzz on a few house shows. And I worked with Buzz on TV, and I didn't remember this. You guys may not remember this either. But somebody showed it to me because I swear I didn't recall it. But on TV, Buzz press slammed me over to Gordon's table. And I went,
yeah, I was there.
How did I, I think they asked me if I could do it. And I said, sure. Then I went, what? What did I just agree to? You know what I mean? It was that early Saturday morning TV. Buzz had probably just come straight from the Crystal Palace. And, it was like, oh my God. But that was what it was, it was a great time.
Yeah, somebody asked me about that the other night, and they said it was Mike Jackson. I said, no, it was Tom Prichard.
No, it's me. Yeah, I didn't believe it either because I didn't remember it. And then, a lot of things I don't remember.
What did you think? Because when you showed up at the TBS studios, you had to actually dress in people's offices. And
well, I had done that in Louisiana though. It was a TV studio like that. So and we did it in I think Arkansas too. So prior from October to January, so I knew there were places where. I guess here again, Brent, the instinct in me kind of made me feel that wrestlers were able to adapt and kind of morph into whatever environment they were in. And that always made me feel proud to be able to do that because you can put us in a closet, and they used to dress like in a place no bigger than a closet in Eugene, Oregon. So, I mean, you adapt and you make good with whatever you had. Look, it's not like we were saving the world from war or we were accountants or anything. We were professional wrestlers. And just by the fact of guys like Terry Funk or Mark Lewin or these crazy people, Abdullah the Butcher, the Sheik. I mean, these are the kind of people, we're dealing with. We're not dealing with these straight people. You know what I mean? So we were able to dressing in TV studios or offices. Yeah, do what you got to do.
I think some of them offices that they dressed in was Ted Turner's actually.
Probably. Yeah, probably. I'm sure they did a lot more than dressing there too.
The Georgia Championship Wrestling, they really, you got some good wins on that TBS while you were there during your run there. Then they would eventually put you were doing some stuff. If I remember correctly, we were going to Ohio. They were going to Ohio at the time. And wasn't you doing some type of the press releases or something at the time for them?
yeah, and I don't know how that came up. I think your dad might have had something to do with that. That's cool too. But again, I made some missteps when I went to Georgia. I made some missteps as we go on in our career. But I was very fortunate while I was there because I met some very interesting people. I met some very good people, great people, and I got to do a lot of cool things. So I have no regrets. Well, not in my time in Georgia. I have a lot of regrets. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, and if I would have played it differently, we'll never know. But yeah, I did some press releases up there and got a chance to try that out too. But I don't know that I was made out to be an office guy. Some people are, some people aren't. I just wanted to wrestle, and at that time, that's what really meant the world to me. And so I don't know that my heart was in it, but I did the best that I could.
You know, we were making some trips. We was making a trip somewhere, and Dad told us, he said, you know what? They're needing somebody to do commentary, and he said, hey, you know, we wrote down all the talent was there at the time, and we said, you know, I think Tom Prichard would be good at that. He said, well, I'll tell Jim Barnett about that tomorrow morning. I don't know where we were going. I don't know where we was going. I guess Jim Barnett told Ole, and Ole said, hey, they want you to do commentary on TV, because I know at some point Roddy Piper got stabbed in North Carolina, and I don't know if that was at the same time or it was before that. Do you remember?
I don't remember either, and I don't remember if there was just something with Piper going on. But again, some guys in this business make it a point to saddle up to the office and make it a point to make sure they do and say the right things. I could have been just the opposite, because right, wrong, or indifferent, the perception was there was the office and there were the boys. And growing up, I worked in the wrestling office, and I could dress the part and I could do the part, but that wasn't where my heart lied, and it wasn't where I got the strongest draw. It wasn't pulling me in saying, man, you could, like some guys like Michael Hayes. I thought Michael gets a bad rap for being a horrible worker. I've worked with Michael. He's stiff, at times, but I thought he was a decent worker. I thought he was a very good performer, but his strength really does lie in putting matches together and coming up with scenarios. I think he's a creative genius. I like Michael, love Michael. But
you just didn't want to get a drop kick from Michael.
No, you didn't. And the left nail you too sometimes. But it just wasn't something that drew me in. It wasn't something that was my passion. I just wanted to get on the road, travel, get to the town, find the building, get ready to go, hit the road or hit the ring, have a good match, have a great match. Hell. That's what I wanted to do. And so commentary was great, but I'll never forget this. I mean, I did it with Gordon for a little bit, and then they did an article in I don't remember what magazine, but I remember the line perfectly. To this day, they said Tom Prichard is an insomniac's best friend. And I thought, oh my gosh, ouch.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Ow. Man, but it's true, because it was like I was craving, I was chomping to get in the ring, and because I knew there were certain guys I could work with. Like I had really good matches with Buzz, and I felt it because while he was solid, he was never stiff with me. There's a difference between solid and stiff, and when you're getting that flow going and you're feeling it and you're going back and forth and you just feel that you got this energy that mixes and clicks. And some guys you do that with, some guys you don't. So, after I read the deal, Insomniac's best friend, I went, wow. So I don't know if I was cut out for that or not.
Well, we thought you did a great job at it.
Well, I appreciate that.
We thought you did good. I mean, why do you think you ended up doing commentary when Continental Wrestling? So,
well, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. It was, and that was a different time and a different place in my life too. But
all right, Mitch, you got some questions for him?
I got a couple. We all know that as it worked out, you and Brad would work together on various occasions throughout your career. Big friends. Is this where, in your run at Georgia, is that when you first wrestled and teamed with Brad Armstrong?
Yeah. That's where I met Brad. That's where I met all the Armstrongs. And, everybody was living at the Falcon's Rest. And the whole family came over. Yeah, yeah. You remember the Falcon's Rest?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I lived there.
Hey, yeah. You know what I mean? It was great for the time. It was great for what you were doing. But, so when I met them, it was Brad, I think, had that effect on everybody. He was everybody's best friend. And so I always said he's my best friend. And there's a great line in Wyatt Earp when I think it's somebody asked Doc Holliday, "Hey Doc, why you going to help Wyatt?" He goes, "Because Wyatt's my friend." He said, "Oh Doc, I got a lot of friends." I said, "Well, I don't." You know what I mean? So I didn't have a lot of friends, and it was me. I don't know why. I've got to this stage in life. I've tried to figure out why was I such a loner? Why couldn't I connect with a lot of people? There's no explanation I can give you to make sense. But with Brad Armstrong, he was the one guy I could connect with. We went through a lot of things at different times, but it was parallel. Our lives paralleled a lot of things that we did and went through, so we could relate. And there were many that I could just call up and say, "Hey, Brad, I have nothing to say and all day to say it," and it would start from there. And he'd tell me a joke or he'd tell me what he did, since then, and it continued on until he died. So, yeah, I made some friends in Georgia. If you want to count Tommy Rich, but I think he hates me right now. So, because I give Tommy hell every time I see him, and he don't always like it. But anyway,
that's pretty good.
Somebody say something about.
Hey, somebody says something about. Hey, what they say?
Every time I heard him, he always said, "Hey, somebody got a beer?"
Hey, what kind of beer you drinking? Is it cold? Good. Hey, give me some. I know you're holding. Give me some.
Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit about it. What was it like to work with the Iron Sheik in the ring? Didn't you do some of that in Georgia?
I did. He was always a pro too. And I want to say always a pro. A pro knows when you're going to go in there, you don't take advantage of somebody, man. That's not being professional. That's just being stupid. And Sheik was always a pro. And I worked with a lot of pros in Georgia. There were a lot of guys like the Sheik, who'd been around for a while and were going to get an opportunity because, Sheik was training for the Olympics in Iran. He had a legit background. He was a tough guy. He could handle himself. And he never forgot the fact that we worked out in Houston. And I remember Manny Fernandez at one time told me that it might have been in Georgia, but I don't know where Sheik and Manny would be together. And I don't know this. I just know that Manny told me, says, "Yeah, I saw Sheik the other day." He said something about, his rookie. He said, "No, he's my rookie." Again, from San Antonio. So Sheik would always go, my rookie. I'm so proud of you." And I have a picture of Sheik when he was Khosrow, a young guy with hair in a suit with Muhammad Ali that he signed to Dr. Tom Iron Sheik. I have it on the wall in our JPWA training facility right now. So,
boy, Ole Anderson was mean to the Sheik, and he trained with him, but boy, he was mean to him.
Well, he might have been mean to the Sheik, and that's because they were both headstrong, I think. But Ole, I got to tell you something, man. Ole was always nice to me, and I'll never forget working with Ole at one time. And you easy, and I thought, oh my God, this is Ole Anderson. I thought the badass ass kicker. But Ole has that reputation, and it's funny because I saw Ole maybe 3 years ago now at a convention, and he always has been nice and laughing with me. He's sick, and he's laughing with me. You know what I mean? He's in a wheelchair, and the lady standing next to him says, "Huh? Oh, how are you? Good to see you." And I don't know if he thinks I'm Ron Prichard, football. It could. That's where I keep thinking. I'm thinking maybe he thinks I'm somebody else because it couldn't be me. And speaking of guys working, I worked with Wrestling 2 on a couple spot shows, and one night in particular, I went behind him, just going behind him, not going to do anything. But he goes, he went right around behind me, took me down. He goes, "That's a good way to get yourself pinned, son." Okay, I thought we were working here. I was supposed to show fire. I thought as a baby face, but anyway, yeah. So there were guys like the Sheik that could handle themselves, and wrestling too is another tough guy.
All right, well, I think you answered our question about Ole. Ole was very now, and I will say this in March of that year. Well, before we get that, you remember going against the Moondogs, Larry Booker and Randy Colley when Sonny King was there?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Was it on TV or was it in Chattanooga?
Well, you know what? You did a lot of matches with them. I think it was a couple of times because Brad was your partner in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there was Chattanooga and wherever else it was. But yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, they wasn't there long. I don't think they were there long in Atlanta.
Well, they had a different way of working, and I worked with them later on, in the years when I was in Memphis, and their style wasn't necessarily conducive for the times, I would say, because in Memphis all they did was come in and beat the hell out of you with chairs. And Jeff Jarrett was teaming with Lawler, and I think Jeff said, "Oh, I don't think I can work with those guys. So hey, how about you, Tom?" So sure, yeah. I mean, again, I was one of those guys who wouldn't say no, but then you get in the ring and they hit you. Well, okay, you're going to hit me with a chair like that, I'll hit you back like that. You're going to have to expect a receipt. If you're going to give, you got to take too. That's my way of looking at it.
Now, Matt Bourne was in Georgia there for a while as well. Do you remember Matt?
I do. And I met Matt in Georgia too. Yes, I do remember Matt. But once again, let me say this, Buzz and Matt, kind of similar in ways. I got along with both those guys because they loved the business. Matt loved the business. Buzz loved the business. And I think once you get in with somebody who really loved it at that age, at that stage of your career, that's really all you want to do is you want to go out and you want to wrestle, have fun, and do what comes with being in the business at that time.
Did you talk to Jim Barnett any while you were there?
I did a little bit, and when I first got in, and because he's the one who actually brought me there, and he gave me some advice that I didn't take that I should have, and I came down to the office a couple times to go over those press releases, and he was a great guy. I made the huge mistake by not taking his advice. I'll say that.
Jim Barnett was a very smart man. He really was
incredibly smart man, and I kick myself in the ass every day.
Yeah,
I live that regret. Yeah.
Now, did you do that? The press releases, did you do that through Les Thatcher? Was it Les Thatcher?
No, I did that. I did all that at home, just by myself. Yeah.
Because Les was working there at the time, right?
Yes, he was. He was doing the Ohio tours.
Yeah, Dad was taking care of the Georgia towns at the time.
Exactly.
Now, when Barnett left, Barnett did not leave.
Right.
He got pushed out in January of 1983.
Well, I was already gone. Yeah.
Did you see? Did you leave? I didn't think you left in March of that year.
Or maybe I did. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I could be wrong because, but I could be.
Chances are, Brent, you're more right than I'm right.
You could have been gone because you did disappear for about 4 months. I could not find any matches of anywhere you wrestled between about March and June of that year. I don't know if you just.
I don't either.
Where you went, but I could not find any matches of you wrestling anywhere for about 3 months. So you must have just disappeared from it. I figured you were maybe in that line where Ole Anderson and Les Thatcher got fired the same day. Ole fired Dad and Ole. If I get this right, Ole fired Dad and Les Thatcher the same day at the same time. They were in the office together and fired them the same exact. He just come in and said, "Listen, I understand you guys don't like what's going on," and he said, "Les, you're fired, and Ronnie West, you're fired. Go find you somewhere else to work."
So what was the story there? I don't know. I've never heard that one.
Well, I don't know. I don't believe. Now, this is what I believe, because Jim Barnett left in January of 1983. He got pushed out. By March, he's working for Vince McMahon. So, I don't know what happened there. So Ole's in charge at this time. Well, I don't really think Ole liked Dad to begin with. I truly don't think, because he was Jim Barnett's guy. He was not Ole's guy.
Right. That happens.
Jerry Jarrett is the one that set Dad and Jim Barnett when Jerry Jarrett was booking in 1974. He was going to leave. He's going to go back. Dad was there. He takes Dad in the office, sits with Jim Barnett, and says, "This is the guy that you need." He said, "Ronnie West will be the one. He'll be the one that takes care of you. He'll make sure you're all right." He said, "You let him." So from that point on, he worked for Jim Barnett. He never worked for Ole. So I think Ole knew he couldn't get rid of Dad.
Right.
Several times. I think while you were there, Dad was handling Chattanooga. He was handling the booking in Chattanooga.
Right.
He's the one that did the Tommy Rich Buzz Sawyer angle. He's the one that started that in Chattanooga. So and he get mad. Was you there the night they did the angle where they went out? Buzz and Tommy went out in the parking lot and fought, and they showed it on TV in Chattanooga. Were you there?
I might have been, but again, I can't remember.
Well, Ole hated it. He said, "Don't do that Tennessee bull crap." He didn't say crap, by the way.
I'm sure I know what he said. Yeah.
He didn't like any of that stuff, and he didn't like it. So any place you see Georgia that has any kind of tar and feather matches, coal miner glove matches, it was not Ole Anderson.
Yeah.
I can tell you
well, again, if he wasn't Ole's guy, I get it now. I mean, early on, I was a little rebellious. I had this adverse attitude towards life and people, and I couldn't tell you why.
Well, we always got along with you, so I don't.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Not you guys. I think your dad especially understood that this is a different breed, and wrestlers are a different type of animal. Some animals you have to approach, let the dog smell you first, or just kind of step back and wait till they come to you. And that's kind of how it was with some guys. Most guys, the smart guys, knew how to play the game, and I just wasn't into playing games back then.
You did a very good job in Georgia, and I mean we were gone by then. Dad went to work for Jim Crockett.
Right.
By that time, Dory Funk Jr. was booking, and that's where he went until he came back and did that 2 months of Georgia Championship Wrestling Superstars. That was not. By that time, you had went to Memphis. How did you get from Georgia to Memphis?
I think from Georgia, I came back home to Texas, and Nick Bockwinkel had bought into the Houston office at that time, and I was looking to go somewhere else. And again, I wasn't making friends. I wasn't making connections. This is a relationship business, and I knew that, but I wasn't connecting with that. I wasn't plugging into that. I wasn't planning to be around past 30. Honest to God, I wasn't planning to be around now. I honest to God wasn't looking at the future. I was only looking for today. And if I made it till tomorrow, then we'll find out what I need to do to survive the next day. I mean, as primitive as that may sound, as stupid as that sounds, I still asked for some help. And Paul Bosch talked to Nick. And Nick, I think, had dealings with Lawler at that time, and that's how I got there. So eventually, and I didn't want to play. Oh my God, in Memphis, talk about a game, So I just didn't want to. I just had this. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up when you had to. I don't like kissing ass. I just don't. It's just not in me. And you have to kiss some ass in this business. Let's just lay the facts on the line. You got to play the game. If you don't, somebody else will. And anyway, so that's how I wound up in Memphis, and I didn't make a lot of friends there either the first time. And then I went back about 4 times. I had 4 tours of duty, if you will. And the last time I was there was with Eric Embry, and again, it was the same thing, but Embry figured it was better to have me pissing inside the tent than outside, I guess. So kind of connected there. And I was getting a little older and a little more, okay, I've got to play nice, and I've got to I've got to play. If I don't want to play, I'm not gonna be on the card. I'm not gonna be in anywhere in it. So I learned how to play, but still, there's just something inside me, Brent, that says, you're going to tell me bow down to the power. I'm going to say, no. No, I'm sorry. We're going to have to stand side by side because I'm going to bow down. That was just the way I felt.
Well, you had talent. So when you came to Continental Championship Wrestling, and we'll talk a little bit about that because we're running out of time. But in 1986, you make your way to Continental Championship Wrestling. We'll talk about some other stuff because I want to talk about Mid-South Wrestling because they put you. I'll just say one more. I'll say one thing about that. When you came to Mid-South Wrestling, they put you with the first month you were there with some horrible wrestlers. Ed Carboot Thomas,
yes,
Thor. Oh my goodness, there was some
yes
people you had to work against.
Well, but that's but real quick, and I know we're running out of time, but Mid-South is where I turned heel. And Bill Watts came to me and says, "Have you ever thought about being a heel?" And I said, "Every day." He goes, "Yeah, you carry it to the ring with you." And then I saw it about Bill Watts. He wanted to help people. For whatever you want to say about Watts, Bill really did want to help. He would groom somebody, and again, it was just a matter of opening up and being accepting. And I was accepting there, and I saw a different side because you hear all the rumors, you hear all the bitching and moaning, complaining, but the real fact is the guy wants to help, and it only makes sense. And that's how I look at it now. It only makes sense to help people. And if you're going to train somebody or promote somebody, you want to help them. You want to do the best you can because you don't know if you have a diamond in the rough here. You don't know what you got until you give it an opportunity. So, yeah.
That was a hard territory, though. Dad would not stay there long. He would do about 6 months, 8 months there, and then he would leave and go back to Southeastern Continental. Then he would be there for about 6 weeks, get a rest. He'd go back to Louisiana for a while. He couldn't take it all the time because Atlanta, Georgia Championship Wrestling was an easy territory to work in. When he started going up north, it was a little bit more difficult, but.
Well, yeah, and Louisiana was a 3,000 mile a week territory. I mean, easily 3,000 miles. I mean, that was every week, and sometimes more. But if you love the wrestling business, what else do you have to do?
Rusty Jones says hello from Chilton County, the former home of the Central Alabama Music Park and Pig Palace. Both places I saw you cheat. Oh, he said, wrestle. Well, if you saw him, and he probably did cheat there.
I did. I cheated many times in my matches in Alabama. I was proud of it too, by God. That was ring. Yeah.
That was something. Here's somebody else, Rusty Jones. I covered you up, but I also saw you at the Clanton Army in '86. You spit at me, and I something a corner wheel posts, and you went to the police car. I'm glad it did not.
What?
I'm a little. I talked to Wildcat. All right, that's just missing me, Rusty. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go back. Do you understand that? What he's talking about? He was 16 years old.
I don't think I would ever spit at anybody. That's just something. Not a fan, especially because I didn't want any trouble, man.
Yeah. I don't remember you ever doing that. The old guys would stretch. Yes, they would.
Yes, they would.
Yes, they would. I watched it many times in my life growing up in the wrestling business. I'm just going to catch some people that we've missed. Bubba. Husky, woohoo! Now he is watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching us, Jeffrey Archer. Tom, like you're running Memphis with Pat Rose in 1985. Wish it could have been longer. Thanks for the work through the years.
Yeah, we had a good time. Again, if I would have just opened up and relaxed and been a little more cordial, it might have lasted longer. I don't know. I mean, I wish I had an explanation for my earlier years of unsociable attitude, but I don't. I mean, it's just that's the way it was.
But you were sociable to us, even in 1982.
But once again, Brent, you have to understand, your dad had the attitude. He didn't come across like King Arthur. And some guys did. You know what I mean? Your dad knew how to be personal. Your dad knew how to connect with people and talk to people, just like Bob Armstrong, just like Brad. It's one thing and it's another. You get the instinct, and that's what was different.
Dad never thought he was better than anybody. And in Georgia, he had some power in Georgia too. So.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. You don't throw it around, and you know what? And I guess that could have been it. I don't know, man. I was just an idiot. How about that? We'll just cover it and I'll say I'm the idiot, and I am.
David Wilbright wanted to say hello. Mitch, I think we lost Mitch. He probably had some storm somewhere, and So we're sorry we lost him. Let's see. Your commentary reminded me of Piper. Very enjoyable. David Wilbright. Let's see who else we've got here. Tom Prichard. How did you get along with Jimmy Backlund?
I got along with Jimmy, but Jimmy was a different guy. We were just two different people. And once again, if you're going to be a great tag team, you have to get along outside the ring too. And I didn't, he didn't care for a lot of the things I did. I didn't care for a lot of things he did. So we did our thing in the ring. And when we came back, we separated, went our different ways, and then did business. But, I got along with Jimmy. He was okay.
Did you ever work with Piper?
I did.
Brother?
Yeah, I actually did work with Piper. And I think I worked with him in Georgia, as a matter of fact. But I met him first in California. And, one of the reasons why I sounded like Piper, I didn't do it intentionally, but it came across pretty naturally. And I think it's because I could appreciate, and it felt a little more natural. Piper had this chip on her shoulder, and he spoke with that passion and the fact that, don't talk to me that way. And you kept that rap going, and you just kept the rhythm going, and he, no matter what, just the way you said it. And but he was a good guy backstage, and he never came across as that guy who was going to kiss anybody's ass either. Oh. And no, but he was too talented. He was too good to be denied. And so yeah, I knew it did. It wasn't intentional, although I'm sure it came across intentional. It felt comfortable.
Was you there when Roddy Piper got fired in Atlanta? Was you there?
I might have been, but I don't recall.
He was supposed to be him and Tommy were supposed to be in Etowah, Tennessee, at a little spot show on a Sunday afternoon, and neither one of them showed up till really late. Brad and Buzz Sawyer had like a 45-minute match there, and that Piper got, and if people knew what he was being paid at the time, they probably wouldn't want to work there. I mean, he was making some good money not to show up.
Well, no doubt about it. And he was working the Carolinas and Georgia at the same time, and he was the hottest thing going, man. He was hot property back then. So, that's why he was on the first WrestleMania. That's why he's one of the guys that Vince poached right off the bat, and he was the top heel. He wasn't a big guy. He was tall, but he wasn't a real big guy back then. But he was the guy that they all. Charles, I did not work Mid-Atlantic, by the way. I did some shots there, but I never worked the territory.
I guess that he's wanting to know about Vince McMahon, I'm thinking.
Well, Vince is Vince. Vince is what you see is what you get.
Let's see what this Reggie Wayne, Dr. Prichard, what style elements of the territory would you like to see really make a resurgence today?
Well, I would like to see the towns come back and guys make trips by cars and do a 6-night-a-week territory, but that ain't going to happen because you have cable, you have the internet, you don't have the veterans who know the style that needs to be done to do a weekly town. It just I don't know that model is feasible. I think it's outdated, and I don't believe that could ever come back.
Yeah, I don't believe it will either. When Wendy said Dr. Tom was the best hill in Continental, I would agree with that.
Well, there were a lot of great heels in Continental. I was certainly one of them, but there were some heels in Continental for sure.
Somebody wanted to ask, because I guess you used that little thing that you kicked people with. What did you wear on your shoes when you were winning?
Well, you know who gave me that actually was Jerry Stubbs, because Jerry Stubbs used that very gimmick when he was Mr. Olympia as a drop kick. Boom.
Oh, okay.
And when I was doing the super kick in Continental, Jerry says, I used to use this. I said, yeah, I remember when you used to use it. He goes, yeah, use this, put this on your boot. And he gave it to me. It was very kind of him to do that. Didn't have to.
A little late to the party, but hello, Dr. Tom. That's Sandra Hunt.
And I'll tell you about Sandra Hunt. She took pictures of the match in Pell City, Alabama, Brad's last match, the tag match, Brad and Mad Dog against myself and Micah Taylor. And she sent the pictures to me. It's still on my Facebook where Brad has me in the armbar. So thank you, Sandra, very, very much.
David Bean, Ron West paid me to put the ring together many, many times. Yeah, he had people everywhere that would do that. People, let's see, it's cool to be humble. Yeah, I think that's right. I think if you're going to go long, but say there's some wrestlers that wasn't humble. So
no, you ain't kidding. Yeah.
I met some of those in 1990 working for World Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, and there's still some out there today that have no reason not to be, or they have a lot of reason to be humble, and they're not. So
evidently, Jimmy must have been a bad person. What he was saying in Israel Napier. So.
Well, I didn't see that.
Yeah, you want to read that? Maybe you can read that.
He could be a real prick, not meaning. Well, yeah, Jimmy just had his way of doing things. I had my way of doing things, and I just it's just kind of the way we did it. He did his thing, I did mine.
All right, before we go, we want to talk about a couple of things. First, we want to tell everybody about your wrestling academy, and this is where they can find it. So if you're watching this on replay, you can check him out on Facebook. Also, you have a Facebook page, but you also have a website.
We do. On the Facebook page, it's Jacobs-Prichard Wrestling Academy, so it's spelled out. And there's no T in Prichard, by the way, for those that like to put a T in Prichard. On Facebook, it's Jacobs-Prichard Wrestling Academy. Also, our website is jpwrestlingacademy.com. And we're like everyone else, just waiting for this zombie apocalypse to get over so we can reopen and get back into business and doing things again. We started in 2019. This is our second year. We were 11 weeks in when all of a sudden we had to shut down, but we were certainly coming back and looking to do our thing again. And by the way, Jacobs is Glenn Jacobs, the Knox County mayor, also known as Kane, the devil's favorite demon. So if you have a chance to look us up on jpwrestlingacademy.com. We have a Twitter too. I'm sure if you type in JP or JPWA, I'm sure that'll come up too.
And then you've got one as well. It's at Dr. Tom Prichard.
Correct. Yeah. So
I'll put this all at the bottom. I'll put this all at the bottom of when it's a replay. I'll put it all at the bottom, not only on the Facebook but also on YouTube, so people that's watching in both, because we play at the same time on them. I think we're running out of time. I think I've took up too much of your time already.
No. I took up too much of your time already. That's the thing. What happens is I get to telling stories and I get to talking, and then the guys go, "Oh my Jesus Christ, we should have gone." Okay, but thank you for having me on, Brent. It's very, very cool, especially going down memory lane about Georgia Championship Wrestling. And let me say this real quick: the last time I saw your dad, he came to visit us at Titan Tower in Stamford. Kevin Kelly and I gave him a tour of the office, and he was working for Cole Brothers Circus at the time. So he was just as cool then as he always was, and he was always cool to me. And I do appreciate everything he did for me in my career, not just in Deep South, or not just in Georgia Championship Wrestling, World Championship Wrestling, but also in Mid-South in Louisiana. He was there too. So yeah, he was always a great guy. He was a great guy to everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate it. I'd love to have you back on here because there's so much more we can talk about. Because we really didn't get into Continental. We do a show every Thursday night. We talk about Continental Championship Wrestling, and we're just in March where you come in and go against Tim Horner. So I'd like to bring you back on and let's talk about the Continental Championship Wrestling days, because I think that was one of the probably one of the best times that we had in wrestling. That in Georgia. Mid-South was good. It was just Dad had to work. He had to work, and that's all he got to do. So
right.
But I appreciate it, and thank you so much, everybody. If you have not, our Facebook, like our page and share it. If you are on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button and give us the big thumbs up. And that lets us know that you care what we're doing. Dr. Tom, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be back next week for more. And we'll have the Tennessee stud, Ron Fuller, right here next Thursday.
Tell Ron I said hi.
I surely will. I will tell him that you said hello and he needs to run a show or something so we can all work.
Right. Excellent. Thank you, Brent.
Right. Thank you so much.